All right. Hello, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm sure a few people will join us after we start, but we're going to get going because it's already 10:05. So first, what we're going to do is introduce the team a little bit. So everybody's going to go around and say hi, but I'm TJ Reed.
I am Lawrence Goshan.
Sam Debus.
My name is Thaddeus Gassy.
And Ty, I believe, is on the call, but he's feeling sick today, so send him your, positive vibes and Tylenol. Thank you all for joining us today. So we're going to go over the agenda real quick before we fully get going into it. So the webinar reminders, Thaddeus is going to talk about in just a second. We're going to go over feedback from the last agency admin training. We have some news for the balance of state, which is pretty exciting. We're going to share a little bit of progress for the point in time count for Maricopa County, at least. Lawrence is going to lead a training on how to run and how to use the Continuum of Care APR report to fix data errors. We're going to have a reminder about housing move-in dates for permanent housing programs, and then we're going to close up requesting feedback again.
So as we have done in the past, I'm going to go over some of the webinar reminders. Attendees are responsible to share what they've learned with their agencies. If you have a question during the agency admin training, please use the Q&A function. That's question and answer. Common questions will be answered live. Q&As will be aggregated and shared later on. And longer questions can be emailed to the help desk. This is required attendance, and the availability of recording will be that we will be emailing and posting it online by Friday, March 2nd, and you will have until March 9th to complete for those not in attendance right now.
All right, everybody. So we wanted to go over some of the feedback we received from you all last month on SurveyMonkey. We will be sending out the actual link so you can review the information online if you're interested. But the main things that we heard from you all were reporting and more detailed information. So we're really going to adjust our trainings to address some of these issues. For example, today we are going to spend a significant portion of this time troubleshooting the APR, which I hope will be to your guys' satisfaction, will benefit you really well. And we want to continue to do trainings like this that are going to go into really detailed information for you agency admins to get the information you need out of HMIS. And the news that we're going to talk about, this is specifically for the balance of state. So you no longer have to use your PKI security certificates. So now both of our continuums no longer use these certificates. If you are an existing user, you will not need to do anything different. It will be updated. Just to clarify what this means, new users can access Service Point using just the internet without downloading a security certificate. It makes things a lot more simple for you all, and this is a pretty exciting change. So yay for the balance of state.
We're going to pause for about 15 seconds to see if there's any questions so far.
All right, since there are no questions, we're going to go into just a brief update on the point in time process for Maricopa. So our initial extrapolated count, and what that means is the city of Phoenix does not engage with every single area. So they use a model to count up folks from those surveyed areas. So our total count for Maricopa County, for those interested right now, and this is a preliminary number, it's 2,618. So again, this is a preliminary number. We're still doing some final analysis on this, but we wanted to make sure you guys were aware of this because it's really interesting to know, and it's gone up just over 26% from last year. A special thanks are going to go out to some of the volunteers in the community who did a ton of work on this. At MAG, we had Maggie, Maria, and Ann. The City of Phoenix, we had Katie, Brenda from Save the Family, and Charles and Tricia at ABC Housing. All of those folks put in a lot of work to really get to a space where we can share these numbers with you this early, which is very rare. Last year, it took just over a month longer than it did this year, so that's pretty exciting. So that is the unsheltered numbers for Maricopa County. Now for sheltered count for Maricopa County, we sent out a Survey Monkey link to all emergency shelter, transitional housing, and safe haven programs. Again, just for Maricopa County. If you do not know what I am talking about or your agency has not filled this out, please put a question in the board and I can send you a link shortly to make sure that your agency is able to fill it out. We're asking that people fill these out by Friday. If you are unsure if your agency has gotten this, again, just send a question into the links below and I'll be able to answer that for you. But again, we want to get that done by Friday for Maricopa County emergency shelter, transitional housings, and safe haven programs. So I'm going to pause just for a second for some questions, and then we'll get into training with Lawrence. All right, we're going to transition into Lawrence's training in just a moment here. I will get to your questions over text on Zoom, so just pay attention there, and I will send you guys the links and answers to those questions related to the sheltered pit.
It's not that screen.
Okay, good morning. We're going to go ahead and go over the APR, the COC APR. I'm not going to show you very much here. I'm just going to show you how to look at some of the errors on the APR and correct a couple. Mainly things that have to do with your universal data elements and some of the income. So everyone knows the COC APR is found on the Reports tab. It's located here under COC APR. And to run the reports, you want to search for the program you're going to run it on. It's really important that if your access level is higher than the people that enter the data, that you are in EDA mode to run the data. So someone is me, it's not a really good idea for me to run the report from my level for one of your projects because I can see all the data as a whole. But I built a couple test clients inside of a project that we use here. So I'm going to run it on our HMIS testing agency, training agency. And the APR is designed to be ran for a year. So anytime you run a report, an APR report, you want to make sure that you run it for at least a year's time span. So I'm going to run it from the 28th of last year, February 28th of last year, until the 27th of this year. Okay. This is what you get when you run the report. It shows you the total number of persons served. Here, we only have 5 clients. You pull it up, you can see they're all the Chesterton family. Now, you scroll down a little further, under 6A, you start seeing your errors and your missing information and your data issues. So I have client doesn't know, client refused. That shows us as an error on the APR. So we have 3 clients that are showing that they don't have a social security number listed. Now we can pull those clients up, and I'll do it in just a second, under their client profile page, and look at their social security number. But I want to more go into the error counts, things that really impact your APR that doesn't make sense to you guys. So I want to look at this relationship to household, head of household. Here we have 3 clients. And by fixing one of these clients, it's probably going to fix everybody. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pull in one client, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to have to run this report again to come back to it, just so you guys know that. But I'm going to go to client point, put in the client ID. Entry, exit, and we're going to go check out these errors. We're looking for the head of household error. Excuse me, the relationship to household error. So this client does not have it at all. Oops. And you see if I try to click away from it, I'm going to get this error. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill some of this stuff out. All the required fields. I'm going to say, this didn't even show as I wanted to. Now, this should have shown as well. I don't know why it didn't, but typically, if you have the head of household listed incorrectly as anything other than the head of household, it'll cause an error for everyone up under this family. So typically, you would have to go back and adjust the head of household status, relationship to head of household, make sure that it's self, and it'll correct it for everyone else. There's no head of household listed for the project. Everyone up under is going to get an error. This one is missing as well. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the report again, and I'm going to run it all over again. It's one of the things that's kind of difficult about the report is that if you want to use the hyperlinks, you have to run the report over and over and over to get directly to the clients that have the errors. Okay, so now we see head of household error is gone. Excuse me, relationship to household error is gone. Now the next error we're going to look at is disabling condition. We see there's one client with the error disabled condition. That's Testerson. I think that should be our head of household. So we have to look at a couple of things. We're looking for a disabling condition error.
We're getting a sound.
Wait, no, I am.
So looking for a disabling condition error, the first place you want to start is here. Does client have a disabling condition? We have it here stipulated as no. Someone else at some point also put yes, but the last error in there, the last one in there is no. So when we get from there, we want to go check out our program data elements to be sure that what's here matches what's in our program data elements. So we're going to get right down to disabilities, and we're going to open it up. like the way that looks right now. I'm gonna look at it from this area. So our client is listed as no, with no disabling condition, but here is listed as yes. So if that's the case, you have to figure out which one is true. If the client actually does have a disabling condition, then you want to jump from this screen and you want to go back to your universal data elements and change it. So you want to make sure that this here matches what's going on in your program data elements. And from there, that should remove your error from your disabilities. So we're going to run the report again. And we scroll down, and now the disabling condition error is gone. Okay, so one of the more complicated errors are the income errors. So we're looking here at income at start. So I'm going to start just with Test Testerson, and we're going to look at him again. And just so you guys know, because we've already looked at this, because we already looked at this client, we can go back to the last viewed and choose him. Open up the entry exit again. Remember, this is your entry income. So we're going to look at the program data elements again, and we're going to check his income. So the first thing we see is that it says no, this client has no income, 0, and no is marked. We're going to open up the HUD verification, and we see in here it says yes, this client does have income in 2 different places. So again, we have to verify, does this client not have income? So it's saying this client has income. If this client does not have income, and this older income is here, you want to make sure that you put an end date on this income. So I'm going to put an end date before the program entry. I'm going to do it here as, oops, excuse me. I'm going to do it here as well. Oops, did I miss that? Did I do it right? Okay, and we're going to be sure that we save and exit. Now, when we come back to the report, we should only see 2 errors now for the other 2 clients that were there. So income and start, we only see 2 errors now. That means that error is fixed. Now, the other portion of the income that can be really confusing and can have a variation of errors is your income at annual assessment. Again, we're going to look at Test Testerson, because we've already looked at him. So the first thing we want to do is we want to check the client's entry date. The client was entered into the program on 12/1/2016, but does not have any interim reviews. Any client that is in a housing program should have an interim review within a 60-day window, up to 30 days before program entry, the anniversary of program entry, or 30 days after the anniversary of program entry. Because this client does not have one, this client is going to show as having an error for annual assessment. So we're going to have to add an interim review. We're going to say this was done. What's his entry date? 12/1/2016. So we're going to say we did this on 12/31/2017.
We're going to get to some of your questions here in just a second before we finish all of this so that we don't lose anybody.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to update the income here. If this client had any income, I think we put earlier that they did not. So we're going to make sure that that still stands true. We're going to say 0 and no. We're going to open up the HUD verification. Make sure all this is showing as ended. Doing income can get really complicated. It's one of the hardest things within Service Point, but it's really required. It's really important to do. So anytime you guys have an issue with income, just give us a call and we will happily, most gladly help you figure it out. I don't know why this didn't exit. Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to run the report one more time, just to show you that, see if the error has been fixed. And then after the error is fixed, I'm going to go ahead and answer some of your questions. Oops, excuse me. I can't spell today, sorry guys. Okay, so now we're showing that income and annual assessment, one of the errors has now been fixed. You would still have 2 more errors to go in and fix, and honestly, they probably have the same error that needs to be done at interim. And depending on the age of the client, depends if they need to have an annual assessment or not. Children do not need to have annual assessments, only adults, because they're the only ones who need income updated. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look at some of the questions and try to answer some of your questions and go from there. So let me see. Okay, the first question I have is, some children do not have Social Security numbers, so we really can't get rid of the errors. That's true. So we expect you guys to have a small error rate. I think we get concerned when it becomes really, really big. So most people are gonna give you a Social Security number. Most people are gonna have Social Security numbers. If you can't gather the information, then you can't gather it, and it's just gonna show as an error on the report. There's nothing you can really do about that. Lori, you asked, when you rerun the report, can you use previous parameters so you don't have to keep picking the dates? I don't think I've ever seen that for the APR. Use previous parameters. I don't even know what that is. There may be something there that you see that I don't know. I don't see that at all. When correcting data errors, do I need to use backdate mode? You do not need to use backdate mode when you are correcting the errors in the entry that it was created in. It's already time-stamped, so you don't need to go back into backdate mode. Just know that whatever error you correct there, it will be in backdate mode. It'll be marked for that date. However, if you're correcting an error for an annual assessment, as the client did not have one, we highly suggest that you go into backdate mode and you do the assessment on the day that it was supposed to be done on. I don't understand what start and end income mean precisely. Could you explain? So start income is the income they had when they entered the program. It's what they had at their entry date. So it's telling you if you had any errors here during entry. Your income and annual means income done in the interim yearly. And income sources at exit means your income at end. Does that help you at all? Let me see. Let's see it again. She said she sees it on my screen. Oh, use previous parameters. Oh, okay. I don't know, Laura. Honestly, I've never used that. Let's see. Let's see what happens when I do that. Let's jump away and go back. Yeah, it works. You put the parameters right back in there. That's funny. I've never used that. I never even noticed it. I don't understand the income gain. All right, let's go live. Yeah, Trisha, I changed the income because we were doing it outside of the income because of my visibility. Normally, I wouldn't have changed it to no, just because of my visibility. I was able to see more than what we expected, so I changed it there just because. But if you guys have any questions in regards to that, anytime a client is still receiving income, when the income ends, you still keep it as yes. You normally don't change it to no. I changed it to no just because of my visibility. I was seeing income that I didn't create, and I wanted to knock it off the report. Okay. For PSH programs, for example, the City of Phoenix, are 60-day interim reviews required per the COC? Yes, they are. If a client if you're dealing with a permanent housing program, you must do an interim review every year. Well, it's not a 60-day interim review. It has a 60-day window. So it needs to be done yearly, 30 days prior to the anniversary date, or up to 30 days after the anniversary date. What if the income doesn't change? Do we still need to do an assessment? And if so, what if anything needs to be changed? If the income doesn't change, you still need to do an annual assessment, and you don't need to change anything. You just need to have it saved there, showing that an annual assessment was done. If anything does change, if the income changes, you need to end the income on the place where it started. So if it started on entry, you would go back to the entry assessment and end the income there, save it, and then go to your annual assessment and create a new income and start it there. Start it for the day after. You start the new income the day after the old income ends. If kids do not need an annual assessment, would those still show up as an error? They should not show up as an error. Kids are not expected to show up as needing income or anything like that. They should not show up on the APR as an error. I don't know what Shantae is saying. In the future, will there be a way to eliminate children in those areas so they can all continually come up and pull a report? For quality assurance, I would want to pull a report at least quarterly so those kids would keep showing up. Are you referencing the Social Security numbers? So first off, an APR is an annual progress report. It is not meant to be run quarterly. It's meant to be run out annually. If you run the report quarterly, it's a possibility that you can get many different errors. It's not designed to be a report that's run anything except for a year at a time. So if that client is being served, whether it's a child or an adult, and they're missing a Social Security number, they're still going to show on the report as having an error, as data not collected, data not missing, data not collected, data missing, or whatever else may be affecting it. Social Security numbers, first name, last name, all those things, universal data elements are required by all clients, are required for all clients to have, adult or child. Thank you, Tricia. To clarify, you stated interim updates are to be completed in the 60-day window before and after project enrollment. The 60-day window is at the anniversary of the enrollment. Is there a report that tells us who is due for interims? Not at the moment. We do not have a report for that. That's something that we would have to talk about creating. We've talked about it in the past, but right now we don't have a report that shows who's due for interim reviews. That's something that you guys would have to track internally. Okay, just to confirm, when income changes, the entry will remain yes. You would put in the end date for that income and start and add the new date for the current income. Then you would be sure to change the total of the amount correct. So Jennifer, that's correct. When the income changes, you put an end date on the income and make sure that you leave it as yes. And then you start the new income the day after. Even if your new income is zero, you start the new income the day after, and you make sure that you update the income received and the amount of the income there. What report should I pull for quality assurance? So there's many different reports you can pull for QA. I guess it just depends on what you're looking at. The 0640 again is designed to QA the APR, but that should also be run in spans of a year. There are a couple other reports that we can run. Again, depending on what you're looking for, you're probably better off just emailing us and asking us those questions, and I can look at some of the data elements that you want to look at, and I can direct you to which report you would need to go to. Okay, thanks, Shantae. Shantae is helping me, and she says to the 0640, if you run the 0640 data quality framework, it will show you if a client is past due on their annual assessments. So that can definitely help. But it'll tell you that they're past due, but it's not going to tell you when it's upcoming, as you were asking before. And it's on tab F. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next subject. If you have any more questions, feel free to keep typing them in, or you can email us directly, and I will do my best to answer your questions. You can even call if you need to, but we'll make sure we get all your questions answered. If you feel that you're gonna need more training or for this subject, just let us know. We'll be sure to set up a training that we can cover the COC, APR, data quality, and anything else that you need. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to Thaddeus and move to the next subject.
Actually, Sam is here. He's going to take us through this next reminder. Go ahead, Sam.
So this is just a general reminder for both Bell State and Maricopa. We've been looking at some of the data quality and data completeness, and there have been some agencies throughout either continuum where the field for housing move-in date specifically isn't being entered. We just want to make sure and just kind of reiterate the importance of entering the housing move-in date. So just to reiterate, this is for, will be used by permanent housing, including rapid rehousing projects. And this should be used to enter the date a client moves into actual housing. So this is separate from the project start or the project entry. For example, a client could be accepted into a project on January 1st, but if they have not moved into housing for a permanent housing or rapid rehousing project on that date, you would leave that blank. But as you go through the process and the client does obtain housing some weeks later, you would then enter the housing move-in date on the day the client is actually moving into housing. And so this is really the key element to tracking the time frame it takes a client to be accepted into a permanent housing project or a rapid rehousing project and actually achieving housing. And it provides a lot of good information regarding what projects expect to see in terms of how long it should take a client or a family to find housing. Without entering this information, without entering the housing move-in date, it'll appear that your project hasn't actually successfully housed anyone from a data perspective. And so projects that haven't been using this, what's come next is saying that, for example, if you were a veteran project, you may have a situation where data says you've been working for a whole year, but you've not housed a single client successfully. And the reason that might come up is because the housing move-in date hasn't been completed. So nothing's really changed about the housing move-in date. We just want to really reiterate the importance of making sure that in your workflow, that when a client does move into actual housing, that we are completing that field for the best data quality and to better reflect what your project is doing. We'll pause briefly if there's any questions on that, and then we'll move on from there.
All right, everyone, we still have a few more questions coming in. We're going to go ahead and answer those through text, and then all the questions and answered will be sent out later on. We want to thank you so much for attending this agency admin training today. We really do want your feedback before you go. I want to remind you that before noon, please expect an email with a link to 4 survey questions from SurveyMonkey. We take your feedback very seriously. We want to know what you think, what you liked and what you didn't like, and what you want to hear in the future. So on behalf of the HMIS team and everyone here, I want to thank you so much for coming. You guys have a great day and try to stay warm out there in this surprising cold. Hopefully not as cold in the balance of state areas either. Have a great one.